in the southeast region. Well, the co-founder and executive director of the Henry Jackson Society, Dr. Alan Mendoza, joins me. Alan, it's always a pleasure to see you there and get your wisdom on it. I don't want to ask you so much about whether or not what's going on in the Ukraine will save Boris Johnson's skin if he is in difficulty. Just park that to one side. But has he done enough up to now to be that man that Zelensky seemed to describe as the best thing since?
Absolutely. I mean, I think this conflict has brought out the best of Boris Johnson, and in a sense, it was set up to do that. It's an ideological battle. It's a classic war of aggression. It is a stage set for big gestures in a world full of little leaders. And Boris is, an outsized character, and he saw the conflict for what it was. He has led from the front with his chin, if you like, from day one. He has stated what is right and what is wrong, and I think he's getting the plaudits from President Zelensky for having done so in a much better way than any other Western leader. I think that's why he indeed has endeared himself so much to the Ukrainian president.
It's interesting as well that all of this stuff's got to be paid for, and there's normally a greater sensitivity in Conservative Party circles than there appears to be over this. Johnson saying to Zelensky, whatever you need, you can have it, whether it's tanks or mobile artillery, and brilliant illustrations over all of the newspapers this morning, or now upwards of £1 billion in direct economic aid. I'm paying for that. You're paying for that. My guests in the studio are paying for that. Getting away with it.
Well, getting away with it because it's so manifestly obvious that it is a war of necessity, not a war of choice. Putin foisted this war upon not just Ukraine, but all of us, essentially, by breaking international norms of behaviour. He's continued to do worse than that with the human rights abuses we're seeing on the ground in Ukraine. What he's done is an affront to the international community, to the world. It is something, of course, the British people completely understand we need to resist, within boundaries, of course. Nobody's suggesting that we are going to be putting troops on the ground as such. But short of that, anything we can do to help Ukraine in its noble defence, I think the British people are more than happy to make a sacrifice to do that because it's such an obvious thing to do.
Final point, then. How worried are you, as an objective analyst on these matters, of how bloody it is going, literally and metaphorically, going to get in the southeast, Donbass, and around that area, round to Crimea?
Well, it's deeply concerning. Obviously, the Russians are going to be focusing all their force on this area. The first thing to note is, of course, their supply chain is much shorter there, so they're not going to have the same sort of logistical problems they had up in the north and to an extent in the south. Equally, the sheer volume of force they're amassing suggests that they intend to steamroller their way through, and that literally, in the Russian case, means kill everything in sight. So we are concerned, obviously. We're concerned for the Ukrainian defenders, and of course we're concerned for the civilians who are going to get in the way of that assault and who the Russians have no care or consideration over and will kill in their path. So it's a deeply concerning situation, which is why we have to supply Ukraine with as much material as possible in this interim period to make sure it can resist this aggression as best it can.
Alan Mendoza, thank you very much indeed for joining us. That's